Hello, and welcome back to Kingdom Huddle. Once again, I'm not at my usual location because I have a special guest, actually, two special guests with me today. And I am someone who truly believes that God created us not just to make a living, but to make a difference. And as parents, all of us are always concerned about, well, is my child going to be able to be a productive citizen? And we're always trying to steer our children to careers that we feel like, okay, you can make a living in this. But again, like I said, I believe that we're here to make a difference. And oftentimes as children, I stated this in a video that I did a while back with my heart-to-heart conversation with my boys, that children know who they are at an early age. Adults, our job is to figure out what that thing is that God placed inside of them and for us to nurture that and bring it out of them. And I have a parent today that actually I feel like she did a great job with this, and her son turned out to be awesome. So we're going to share this story because I believe that we are created to do something, and that something is what God placed in our hearts. And it's not about society telling us what we're created to do. Everything we were created to do was already inside of us. It's already inside of us. So stay tuned. I'm telling you, this is going to be an awesome story. I have my two wonderful guests with me, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, but I'm so excited to talk to them about this topic, about purpose. Pretty much, this is about purpose and knowing your purpose at an early age. So I'm going to turn it to Mom, which is Wendy, for her to introduce herself first.
Hey, my name is Wendy Carpenter, and I'm Tanner Fink's mom.
And, well, obviously, my name is Tanner Fink, but I think most people better know me as Coach Tank.
Coach Tank.
Got it right here.
Okay, tell me about that before we go into it.
So, long story short, I played football for a long time for the Stallions. And I guess I did pretty decent because they gave me the nickname Tank. And it's just kind of stuck for a long time. And then one day, my buddy decides, hey, let's get it on your arm. And I'm like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. So we get it done. And it just kind of became the staple, so everybody knows me as Coach Tank now.
Coach Tank. Okay, so I'm going to refer to you as Coach Tank.
Okay.
Hence the football helmet. We will be getting to this in a moment.
The tank on the front of it, mind you.
Let me bring it closer. Tank. Well, you will know who it is. But anyways, we'll get more into this story in a minute. But the way that I met, Wendy, is because our children, Joshua, and what's your other son name?
Riley and Gunner.
Riley and Gunner, they played league football. And one day at practice, we were talking, and Wendy mentioned Tanner. I had never met Tanner. I'd never seen him at the practices, so I didn't really know who he was. But she was just like, yeah, my son, he always kind of knew this thing, and he pursued it. And she was just talking more about how Tanner, at an early age, knew who he was. And I was so intrigued by that because in a previous recording, I had stated that children know who they are. It's about parents figuring it out and bringing that out of them. And I believe that Wendy has done a great job in that. So I want us to start from the point of when Tanner was a child. Tell me about Tanner as a child.
Oh, God.
Don't hold back.
No, he was always a very inquisitive child. And he had the ability to hold on to facts in a way that didn't make sense to me at the time, that drove me crazy. He knew specific little things about anything that interested him. Like, he was into trains, and he could tell you the difference. Like, if he had two different little toy trains, he could tell you the difference between, like, this is a tanker car and this is a whatever other kind of car. And he knew the specific little differences, and I'm like, I can give him 3-step directions and he can't remember all 3 steps, but he can tell me the difference between, like, these little trains and stuff. And then he did this, then he started going into other things, and then it started to roll into football, and he found his first love in football. Everything about football. He breathed football. He talked football. He would even talk football in his sleep.
Oh, wow.
He was a sleep talker, and so he would talk football in his sleep. And he would he just like, he would notice, he'd be like, Mom, look at the difference between that face mask and that guy's face mask. That guy, and I'm like, they just look like face masks to me. I couldn't see a difference, right?
No difference.
Look at that guy's helmet, and look at that guy's helmet there. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. So, and I'm like, how can you tell the difference? And he's like, oh, they look totally different. I'm like,
Because they do.
they don't to me, But he noticed.
Right.
He noticed these minute little details. And I believe that God gave him that. I believe that God made him very particular about noticing tiny little things. Now, sometimes he misses the big picture, which he's 20, so we give him grace on that. But he notices these tiny little details, and he's always been that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I thought, what in the world is he going to do with this? And so I asked him as he was growing, what are you interested in? What kind of things, because he was homeschooled. And so I would say to him, what kind of things are you interested in? Because the way we educate our children is we really educate them towards what they're interested in, which is totally in contradiction to normal education system.
Yeah.
In his case, I would say, what are you interested in? He's like, football. That's the only thing he ever said was football.
Yeah.
And so as he started to get older and started to get up into high school, I'm like, son, what kind of career do you see yourself with? And he's like, something to do with football. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, so we talked about sports broadcasting. We talked about, sports medicine, all these things. And he's just like, Mom, I don't want to go to school anymore.
Okay, let me stop you there.
Right.
At what age did he say he didn't want to go to school anymore?
About 17, he was like, I don't want to go to four-year college. I'm not going. Like, he laid down the law. I am not going to go to four-year college. That's it. I'm not going to do it. He was playing football, and he got pretty significant injury to his back. And so he knew he could continue playing, but they told him if he injured his back again, he could be paralyzed.
Oh.
And so he knew that really wasn't a direction he was going to get to pursue if he wanted to ever walk, was to be able to continue playing football. And so I said, well, if you're not going to play football in college, what are you going to do?
Right.
He's like, I don't know. So up until he graduated, he told me, I don't know what I don't know. And so he started taking some online classes, but it wasn't really geared towards anything. It was just kind of general education classes, right? He was telling me, Mom, I need a job. I really need a job. But I was like, let's really pray about this.
Yeah.
And let's see what God has out there for you. So he put his resume on Indeed. And how many days was it? Like the next day or a week? Okay. I was thinking it's the next day, but a week. A week later, Power Cross contacted him, and he came in for an interview, and they hired him on the spot. And he called me to tell me, and I didn't even know what Power Cross was. And so he was sent me this video. He was like, you got to check Power Cross out, Mom. They have a vision. Like, this is not just football. This is a ministry. And so, of course, I started bawling. I was like, son, that takes the interest that God put in you so many years ago, and it combines it with a career where you can make money. Which, is necessary for life, but it's not the end-all be-all. But it also is your calling.
Right.
So it's your calling and your career. So he literally gets paid to follow his calling.
Oh.
I was like, and so that amazed me. Like, I've had to tell everybody. I just cannot believe how God worked this out for him to pursue. If you'd asked me at 17 what he was going to do with football, I couldn't have told you.
Wow.
But we just trusted that God had something for him.
Right.
And it turned out that it was Power Cross, and it's just been an amazing experience watching him really pursue that calling and have a love for what he does. So he doesn't work. He is.
That is the truth.
He's having a joy to come to work every day.
So Tanner, your mom said at an early age you understood what you wanted to do. Your passion was like at an early age sports, especially football. Now, she said that you were able to tell the difference between helmets and stuff. How old were you when you were able to do stuff like that?
Probably about 10. because I remember I'd be watching football on TV, and everybody's always got their favorite players and whatnot.
Right.
So I'd be like, oh wow, he looks really cool. I wonder what he wears. Oh wow, that's cool. And then I'd remember that, and then I'd kind of go around. Well, how does that compare to this? Blah blah blah. And then I just kind of started remembering it all.
But how did you did you research it? Because you're at home being taught by your mom. And so did you go on the internet to figure out the difference, or how did you really how did that start?
I mean, I just kind of looked up photos and figured out the differences myself.
Self-taught.
Pretty much. I'd go on the web, I go on, Riddell.com, Shuck.com, whatever, the helmet manufacturers. And I'd see all the different things that they have. I'd see all the different face masks they have, see how I could combine them.
What pushed you? That's why I'm just trying to figure out, what pushed you towards that so much? That was just your passion.
I didn't really know. I just thought they looked cool, honestly.
I'm laughing because it's just so interesting how, like I said, we know who we are at an early age, and we know the certain things that we're passionate about. And it makes no sense at the time. Why am I looking this up? Why does this even matter? But that's something that God was training you in.
Mm-hmm.
He was grooming you, teaching you, saying, no, go further, look for more detail, do this, do that. He was making you an expert at an early age, and you didn't even realize it.
Apparently not.
You didn't realize it because the thing that you were able to do at an early age, adults have to go to college and sports medicine and do all these different studies and things like that. God just naturally made you a student of your gift. And I just think that's so beautiful. So tell me, how was that conversation with your mom, your dad as well, saying, I'm not going to college? How was that conversation?
You're stupid if you don't.
No, I didn't say stupid.
No, that's what Dad said.
Okay. I mean, that's real. That's
right.
Most parents.
How are you gonna make a living?
Yeah.
How are you gonna make a living, right?
I don't know. I gotta be honest. I don't think I was really smart about it. I just kind of was like, I'll figure it out. Go with the flow kind of thing,
I'll figure it out. And I knew that was driving you
bananas.
Insane.
Yes, I'm like, we have to figure out a plan here.
I didn't have a real goal. I was just kind of like, I'll figure it out.
You just figured out. So
because at the time I was doing for the same school I played for, I was also the equipment manager for them while I was playing. So I was running all the equipment for the Stallions while I was playing football.
Wow.
And over time I was just like, oh dude, this is so much fun to do. Because I first started doing it with my dad. We were doing it out of our garage, running the whole football team. Like my dad was the general manager of the team.
Okay, gotcha.
So we would run everything out of the garage basically. And just the more years I did it, the more I fell in love with doing it. And it's not a very common thing. Most people don't know what the term equipment manager even means.
Right. Can you please define it for us? Because I'm not sure what that person would do.
Basically, everything you see that players wear on the field is my job. So I gotta keep I gotta safety check their equipment. I gotta make sure that everybody has mouthpieces, make sure they got game jerseys, shoulder pads with all the straps and the buckles, pants with belts, cleats. I mean, you name it. So everything is my
players are typically on a football team.
Well, it depends on the level of football.
Okay, the level that you were dealing with. How many players?
When I was in high school, we would have 50 some.
So you were responsible for 50 individuals to make sure from head to toe everything they had on was where it should be.
Correct.
Just one person is doing that.
And a lot of the times it'd be during football games, somebody's helmet would break.
Oh.
They'd have to call in a sub for me because I was playing defensive tackle.
Okay.
They'd have to call in a sub for me on defense so I could go over there and fix someone's helmet. And then have to come back out and be like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Wow. The thing that's so interesting about your story is that we have been ingrained with this thought that college is for everybody. That when you finish high school, the next step is college. But that's not necessarily everybody's route, because there's plenty of people who, me as one, that went to college thinking that, okay, I'm going to have this awesome life and, I got a degree. Okay, I'm going to have a job that's paying well. And many people are unemployed now. And what I ended up having to do is going right back to my passion, going right back to what God naturally gifted me in. And you, to me, have an advantage over people who try to ignore their passion and just go for what seems to, okay, I can make a living out of this. You know, to me, it's like you have an advantage because it takes boldness to say to your parents, I'm not going to college. It's not for me. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to figure it out. I think it just takes a lot of boldness to do that. What do you think?
A lot of people said it was foolish.
Right.
A lot of people said not having a plan, not going to college was foolish.
Right.
And what are you going to do with your life?
Right.
Right. And they thought he was just being lazy.
I had a plan, but to most people it was just kind of unrealistic.
Right.
Oh my goodness. That is so good, y'all. Y'all just don't understand because I see God's hand all in that because the Word of God, and I call the Bible the playbook. The playbook always refers to how God is always behind the scene doing stuff, you know, and He has a way of making things that seems wise in the world's eyes, you know, it's foolish in His eyes. And the things that are foolish in the world's eyes is wise in His eyes. You know, so you just stated how everybody else thought it was foolish. To them, it looked like it was laziness, but He was pursuing His passion.
Right.
And sometimes when you're pursuing your passion and your calling, it can be kind of lonely. You're going to expect hate, even from people who you're close to that they don't quite understand it because God didn't tell them, God told you. You know, He put that desire in your heart, even though it seemed like it was contrary to where you should be going. All right, Tanner, we've been having this helmet sitting over here. I want you, Tank, to go ahead and explain to us what does that mean to you and you know, break that down for us a little bit.
Gosh, where do I start? Well, this specific helmet's been around for quite a while. It was 2016 when I got this.
Right.
And there was only one other kid on my team that had a Speed Flex. So I just thought it was really freaking cool.
Speed Flex is the type of helmet that
Yes,
it
ma'am.
is.
This is a Riddell Speed Flex.
Okay. Is that like ranked really high?
Yes.
Okay.
Currently rated 5 stars on the Virginia Tech helmet safety.
Very expensive.
Right.
This one was $550.
$550.
Yes, ma'am.
And how old were you when you got this?
I was 15.
Wow, that's an investment for a 15-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they last up to 10 years, so if you take care of them.
Okay.
And he paid for half of it.
I paid for over half of it. Thank you.
How did you earn that money at 15 years old to buy a 500 and something helmet?
Mowing lawns.
Talk about that. So you knew this helmet was top of the line, and at 15 years old, you decided to do what? Tell me about that story of how this became yours.
Well, when I was 15, this helmet was still brand new. You know, I honestly just thought it looked really.
Okay.
Because helmets don't come out super often. So every time a new one does, you know, that's like at the top of my priority list because I gotta learn everything about it. You know, I gotta know so that way when it comes time for it to go to my people, I already know everything about it and know whether it's a good idea or not.
Right.
Well, I was 15 and I just thought it was cool.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I just talked to my dad and was like, hey, I wanna get this helmet. And he's like, well, you gotta figure out a way to earn the money for it. So
I love that. Dad was like, I'm on board with you getting it, but dude, how you gonna pay for it?
It was originally I had to pay for the whole thing myself, so I'm sitting there mowing lawns and everything, trying to earn as much as I can. And once I get a little over halfway there, it's like, okay, I see you're serious about it. I'll help you with the rest of it.
Awesome. You've been having this since you were 15 years old.
Right.
Were you able to win some games with this, or what was the most memorable moment you had?
Probably have to say last season. We went undefeated and won the championship that year. Another thing is probably wearing this to the All-American game.
Oh.
That we went up to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and they pulled teams from all around the country. They pulled players from all around the country. And it was a couple players from, you know, all these different teams around. I mean, you had teams all the way from California to New York.
Hawaii.
Coming down. Oh, yeah, Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Hawaii, yeah. It was from every state in the country they pulled players from.
Wow.
The best players from their teams.
Uh-huh.
And they were nominated.
And as a matter of fact, he's got the big name written right here.
Okay.
It says Dalton on the back of it. Me and him were the 2 defensive tackles selected to go play.
Wow.
So it was really special getting to wear this. And
now let me ask you this, because your mom did mention that you injured your back.
I did.
Was that 15 or before you turned?
It was when I was 16. So we were in a playoff game against a team called Anderson Cavaliers.
Okay.
And it was towards the very end of the game. I got subbed in to play middle linebacker instead of defensive end because we had an injury. And as a matter of fact, our middle linebacker broke his collarbone the game before. So I subbed in to play middle linebacker that game. And towards the very end of the game, I went to go make a tackle on the sideline. And when I did, another one of the players came, hit me in my back, and made the back of my head practically touch the back of my feet. And ever after that, it just kind of got progressively worse. And I ended up, really not getting out of bed for what, 6-7 months?
It was bad.
So what emotion did you experience during that time? Because as a child, football was your passion. That's what you felt like, I don't know, there's nothing else that I want to do. In that moment, because I've had some family members and people who they felt like this was my track, this is where I'm supposed to go, and then it seems like a detour or possibly something threatening that purpose, that assignment. How did you feel in that moment?
At first, just kind of defeated. I didn't think I was going to play again. You know, I'd spent practically my whole life up until that point playing football.
Right.
Football was the norm for me. You know, I always spent these X amount of months playing football. So at that point, you know, and I always spent the off season training for football. So I was just kind of like, God, what am I going to do? And then it got to the point where I was like, screw it, I'm going to play again.
Did you feel like some of the statements that people made to you as far as this is not going to lead anywhere, you need a solid plan, why didn't I pursue college? Did you start having those regrets and second thoughts about, you know?
Honestly, no.
No?
Not really.
Okay.
I was confident in what I wanted to do, and as much as I respect everyone else's opinion, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, so
yeah.
I was just going to do what it took to get there.
Okay, so now you are in a position where, like your mom said, if you were to play again, it could be even more severe in the point that, as far as like you might be paralyzed or whatever. So that's not something that you're currently playing ball, but you decided to just still be a part of a team. Tell me about that process from switching from, okay, I can no longer play, but I still want to be around it.
Well, it's a slight variation to that story. I actually came back and played again.
Okay.
So I spent 6 or 7 months in bed doing nothing. I gained like 45 pounds. I was huge, but football season was coming up, and I was like, dude, I can't pass up on this. You know, I want to go play. And so I did, and they had to switch me to D tackle because I was so big. But it actually ended up being the position I fell in love with and continued to play.
Okay.
So I ended up winning all conference as a defensive tackle my first year playing it. And then from that point on,
First year playing it.
luckily I didn't injure my back anymore that year, but I was pretty big. So I had to spend a lot of, you know, the next off season trying to cut a lot of that weight down.
Yeah.
And came back again and played the next year, and was able to go all conference and all American for that season as well. But then it was because I played 3 more seasons after that, after I hurt my back.
Wow.
And it honestly, it sucked because I was under like constant back pain all the time. Like it was miserable to the point like I almost wanted to step away and go cry sometimes.
Wow.
But I just love football that much. I just wanted to keep playing because at that point I was like, with how bad it is now, I know I've got no shot at college or anything. I can't really go play next level. I just want to enjoy it while I got it.
Got it.
And after the 2019 season, I was like, okay, I'm done. But then because of COVID, I would have technically been able for I technically would have been eligible for the 2020 season because of my age. But because of COVID, obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
So that translated into spring 2021, which was obviously just a few months ago.
Right.
So I was able to go back and play one more time, and that's when we went undefeated and won the championship, which is my second championship won with this team.
Wow. All right, so you have this cool shirt on, says Power Cross, and then it has a cross. I don't know if you all can see it really well, but it's a circle with a cross in the middle of it. So I want you to just tell the people who don't know anything about Power Cross, what is it? How did you really land this position? What is it that you do on a regular basis, and perhaps what it means to you?
Well, what's the best way to explain this place? I mean, it's called Power Cross Ministries because it's literally a ministry to all these kids. I mean, a lot of these kids are growing up in single-parent homes, you know, abusive homes, don't really get to eat or anything like that. Don't have much of a social life. So they come here after school. And, they come out and hang out with us, and we feed them. And we go out there and we play football with them.
Oh, wow.
So, this job is just like, it's not even a job. It's like, I get to come here, and all of us coaches are like father figures to these kids.
Wow. How many coaches?
For each team, there's about 3 or 4.
And how many children are we talking about?
About 200 plus.
Okay, so 200 plus children come to this. This is the location that we're filming in. Is a facility. So how do they get here? Do y'all go in the community and pick them up, or?
So when they get out of school, we've got buses and vans and SUVs, you name it. We go out and go pick them all up from school.
Okay.
Come here and bring them back, feed them. If it's during the football season, which we're right in the process of wrapping up right now, we'll come and we'll feed them. We'll get them dressed for football, help them with their academics, whatever homework they need, or if they're just falling behind in general, we'll help tutor them. Go out there, practice them to death, and let me tell you what, for some 7, 8, 9-year-olds, those kids are resilient.
So the age group that you're talking about are from, you said 7 to, what's the age?
Max age here is 12.
Okay, so 7 to 12. And they're mostly boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's all boys.
It's all boys. And then you all, for you all that don't know, is Power Cross is located in Salisbury, North Carolina. So how would a parent get in contact with you all, or how do you know to go to the schools to pick up the kids? How does that work?
And just to get in contact with us, you can just go to our website, and they pretty much got everything there you'd want to know. That's the first thing I sent her as soon as I got hired.
Powercross.org.
Powercross.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Cross.org.
Okay. Is there any qualification or eligibility that the parents would have to go to get their kids involved?
No, 100% free.
It's free. And then what's the hours that Power Cross is open?
Well, we usually go pick up most kids around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and it just kind of goes until we get done. So it may be
9:30.
It may be 9:30. It may be 12 o'clock. It may be 5 or 6.
For the parents to come here to pick them up, or take them
We
back
bring them all home.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of anything like this, where you all are pretty much partnering up with parents and filling in that gap. So in a sense, instead of the kids being out on the streets or just being at home getting into trouble, they're in an environment that's teaching them sports, that's encouraging them, that's supporting them, that's assisting them with their homework, and it's a safe environment. And on top of that, the parents don't have to worry about picking them up or dropping them off. To me, this is just so awesome. So what business or partners do you all have that partner with you all? Because you said you feed them and things like that. So is this a nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay.
So with all the partners we have, honestly, that's not a question I can answer very well. We had a donor party, say about a week ago.
Okay.
No, not a week ago. It was a couple weeks ago, right? And
It was amazing.
really high class people there.
Really?
Like I'm talking people rolling up in cars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and whatnot. And these people just donate and donate and donate. We just built a $500,000 football field, completely in for donations.
In Salisbury?
No, it's in our Statesville
Section.
Station.
So we have 2 locations.
Okay.
That both do the same thing.
Got you.
Salisbury's only been around for about 3 years. Statesville just celebrated their 15th anniversary.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. So I want to go back to, I want you to really just speak what this ministry, because it's not a job, what this ministry, this position means to you.
God, it means everything. Like I said, I feel like we're actually essentially being the father figures to these boys. Because other than them being at school, we spend most of their time with them. They spend most of their time with us. And it's not like any other job I've had where you feel like a number or just part of a moving mechanism where if you're out of the picture, it doesn't really make much of a difference. But here, just I feel really important. I feel like things that I do, things that I say, the way I act around all these kids really makes a difference.
It makes a difference.
And it's crazy to see how from when I first got here to some of these kids looking at me like, who's this guy? So now I go pick them up from school and whatnot, and we're jamming out in the car, singing our favorite songs, having a good time. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, it goes back to what I stated earlier, that we were created to make a difference, not just to make a living. And whenever we choose to pursue that, making a difference, God will always make sure that we make a living.
Right.
And that's what God has done for you, is provided you and put you in an environment where you're making a difference. And like your mom said, it don't feel like you're at work.
No.
Because you're having so much fun, and at the end of the day, when you go home, you know that you've made a difference in somebody's life. And maybe because you just started with Power Cross, you don't quite see the difference right now, but I guarantee you 10, 20 years from now, they're going to remember you. They're going to remember, I remember this guy named Tanner, and this is what he did for me. I want you, before we start wrapping up, is to talk about the most memorable moment that you've had with Power Cross.
The first time that, I'd really actually started forming a connection with the kids and everything. One time I came in a little late to work, and I opened the door, and there was about 6 or 7 of my guys standing there. I opened the door, and they were like, "Hey, Coach Tank," and all ran up and gave me a hug and everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like right then, I'm like, all right, this is it. Y'all are stuck with me. I ain't going nowhere. I absolutely love these kids to death.
Wow.
That's probably my favorite memory. I know it's something super simple, but.
Yeah. That's awesome. But Wendy, I'm gonna throw it to you, and I want you to kind of give the final word before we close out. I want you to speak to a parent that may be in the situation that you were in, where you were unsure and you were nervous about your child's decision, but somehow along the way, something deep inside of you said, just trust them.
I know as a parent, we really want to see our children be successful. That's the buzzword, successful. In a worldly culture, that's what matters, success. And success is measured by dollars and cents. What kind of car you drive, what house you live in, what things you have. And I thank God, and I take no credit for this whatsoever, that He placed in me a value on something much higher than that. And he made me kingdom minded, that the things here are all temporal and so temporary, and not eternal. And so I've tried to teach my children along the way that we really need to store up our treasures in heaven, because that's the only things that are going to matter. How much money you made here is not what's going to make a difference in eternity. And so sometimes there were hard times where, what are you going to do with your life? I would say, where are you going to go? Like what? But I trusted that God had a plan for him, and that he had, and I truly believe, and I was telling this woman this, that God gives every child a bent, a natural, what I call a natural bent. And it's a direction that He's placed in them from a very young age, to where the things that they are naturally inclined towards, they have a natural inclination and love and interest. And if you will allow them to pursue that, if you will direct them in the way that you see they're naturally bent anyway, and I use the word bent because I feel like, like a tree, a tree grows towards the sun. So a tree doesn't necessarily grow straight up. Sometimes it is to an angle, depending on relation to the sun, right? And I believe that children are naturally bent towards the sun. They're naturally bent towards the sun. And that He's given them a purpose. And if we allow them to pursue that purpose, that the money will come. But the difference that you make in the world is not something you can put a price tag on. Right.
That's right.
And that's what I wanted for him. And so there are many times where I wanted to say, you've got to get your hiney in gear. You've got, it's time to find a job. It's time to do these things. But, I stepped back and closed my mouth and just watched and prayed. And Lord, open doors for him. And we had to learn, he and I both had to learn a whole lot of patience, because we waited, 6 months on that job, the other job. 6 months we waited patiently on this job. And when it didn't pan out, we're like, okay, what are you doing, Lord? Because we just didn't see the plan. And so we both prayed about it, and then this opportunity opened up like near immediately. And so we saw the hand of God work. And so sometimes you just have to be patient and allow the plan to unfold.
That's good. We have to understand that God's timing is not always our timing, but we have to trust the plan that He has for us and our children. You know, parents, sometimes we think that success looks a certain way, but success is when they're walking in their purpose. So I pray that you were able to gain some wisdom from this conversation. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Tanner, for sharing your story, and Power Cross for doing all the great things that you're doing in the lives of so many. You know, so continue to tune into Kingdom Huddle. We have so many more conversations that I plan on sharing before the end of the year. But until we see each other again, God bless.